Guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Angela, and I came across a VR yesterday maybe, the day before, to Moonflower Moments. This is decks, hashtag decks that made me believe. So it's decks that made me believe in tarot. That it's not just some cards I'm pulling and blah, 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 blah. From what I've seen of her video, it's more of a video that the cards back up whatever visions you're having or whatever is happening in real life. The cards literally are backing that up. So I thought that was a good prompt. And I've actually had quite a few experiences as a medium with tarot and mediumship. I knew I was supposed to be a medium, and I was never going to pick up tarot. And then after a few months of trying to be a medium and nothing happening, I heard a voice basically say, pick up a tarot deck. And it got to the point where I ignored the voice, and it got so strong that I was actually having panic attacks that I did not have a tarot deck. And then I went and bought the traditional RWS. I actually bought the Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith, and I hated it. Hated it. And I'm like, what? And then I saw this deck. Something told me to buy it. It was months after I'd picked up the first deck and not even knowing how to use it or anything. Was frustrated because I couldn't read it. I couldn't use it. And I'm like, maybe I'm just not. And at that point, I'd already bought a couple Oracle decks and was using them. And I'm like, maybe I just don't do tarot. And then this deck entered my life. And that is the Tarot Illuminati. This is by Lo Scarabeo. Eric C. Dunn is the creator. Companion book is by Kim Huggins. It is Lo Scarabeo deck. I bought this deck. And I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to use. And I struggled for a minute to use this deck because I was trying to match whatever the book said, right? And I think it's important in the beginning, unless if you're an intuitive reader, like I am, the book can hinder you because you're trying your best to go by the book, what the meanings are and all that. And sometimes it just doesn't work out that way because your intuitive self is trying to come through and trying to tell you what's being said. And you're like, no, it can't be because this is not what this card means. And I think that can hinder you. And it hindered me for a long time. That's probably why I didn't pick up the RWS very well. But this is the first deck I bought that something clicked in me. But it took me a minute, and I was using this deck, and I was reading through the book, which is fabulous, by the way. And I'm like, the deck is so beautiful. So beautiful. But it just nothing is happening. And then one day I was like, I'm going to pull some cards from this deck. The Tower. I actually did my first ever path working. I literally took a page out of Tarot for Yourself, and it shows you how to path work, step into the card. And I actually stepped into the Tower, and it was a very visceral experience. Very crazy. I could smell the brimstone. I could smell the fire. It was weird. I could hear people screaming. It was weird. Anyway, that is not the card I saw. So I'm pulling cards, and I pull the Three of Swords. And something said, throw the book down. And I'm like, what? I literally heard a voice say, put your book away. And I'm like, but how am I supposed to know what this means? And I heard it again, put the book away. What do you see in the card? And yes, this is a traditional, what you would see in an RWS, Three of Swords, right? You see the three swords with the heart. And this one just happens to be dripping blood. But for the first time ever, I literally heard a voice say, what do you see in the card? And all of a sudden, the card came alive. and I saw the storm going on in the background, the raging storm. And it's funny because when I have the traditional RWS, I never noticed there's a storm in the background. But there is. It's raining and it's gray. It's a stormy, cloudy, rainy day. And I never noticed it until this deck. And I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, you can see the rain just pouring down. I could see the waves crashing against the rocks and like bashing into them. And it was just a violent storm going on. And I didn't even see the Three of Swords. And all of a sudden I heard a voice say, don't worry. The storm will pass. Your rainbow is coming. And it was at a time that I was frustrated with tarot. It was at a time that I was frustrated with a lot of things going on in my life. And it was just instant calm. And I'm like, holy crap. So this, I would say, single-handedly made me a believer in tarot immediately. This is the card I always fall back to because it's the card that I was like, whoa. And that was from the Tarot Illuminati. Then the next deck I'm going to show you is it's an oracle deck. It's the Sacred Rebels Oracle deck. This is my favorite top oracle probably ever. It's a beautiful, beautiful deck. It's hard-hitting. I watched Bahati Life on YouTube. At the time, I was considering throwing my pen down and not writing anymore because I just published a book. Nobody was buying it. Nobody's still buying it. And it was my everything, my baby, I took a piece of myself and put it in writing. And I was so stressed out that nobody was buying it. Nobody knew who I was. And it was just like, how? Like, I'm just going to throw this pen down and not write anymore. I'm just not meant to write. And I was watching, just happened to find YouTube, and Bahati Life was doing a pick a card reading. And I picked what I thought was, I should have left it out, this card. All I saw was the top here. And when she got to this card, I was like, oh, that's my card. I didn't even remember that it was not my card. And the first card she flipped over in the stack for this stack was this card. And then I realized there was words at the bottom. And it says, the word wants to be written. I instantly started bawling in my car on my lunch break, watching this video, watching her pull this card after I had been under this huge turmoil. And it was weird because it's this outsider that's telling you the word wants to be written. It's not a card I pulled. It's a card I accidentally picked in a spread somebody was doing on TV. And I was floored. I was flabbergasted. My jaw hit the floor and I instantly started bawling. And then I said, I gotta have this deck. And I bought it, and it's literally been my favorite deck, oracle deck ever, number one ever, since then. So this deck hit me twofold, you know what I mean? And it was just like, wow, like the word wants to be written. And I can't even tell you how many readings I've gotten done since then where they ask me, why aren't you writing? You're supposed to be writing. I just went to a metaphysical fair a couple weekends ago with a friend from work, and the lady literally said, I see you writing a lot of books, but you have to pick up the pen. Why aren't you writing? And I'm like, dang it. So that card will always haunt me for that. But at the same time, I find it beautiful because it made me realize this stuff is real. It's real, man. It's real. If that wasn't enough, this deck I'm going to show you. It is the Tarot of the Secret Forest, also by... that oracle deck was a Blue Angel, if you didn't know. Tarot of the Secret Forest, also by Lo Scarabeo. The lid's gone. It's old. I've used the crap out of it. This deck has the black and white image on the back, the colored on the front. It's Dark Fairies, and I love it. Love it hard. I I started trying to do readings for people, mediumship readings for people on Facebook. And this was my first real attempt at it. And the lady asked where her uncle was. They had found his boat. He had a boat. All I knew is that they had found his boat, but not him. And they didn't know where he was. And I saw an image of a man, and the hat he was wearing told me his location. It literally was like a farmer hat, but on the front it was a red hat, and in the middle of the front was a square, and it had this town he was in. And I saw an image of a boat tied up to a dock, and then this lazy river next to it. It was like some kind of inlet that nobody goes to. It's like a quiet area that nobody, and I had seen this right before he went missing. So I didn't know anything. So then I kept getting, I did a location spread for her. And the first card that came out was the Six of Swords. And my jaw hit the floor. Because this was the image of the lazy river I had seen. The exact image I had seen of the lazy river that I had had a vision of. With a dock, with the exception, there's a dock right here, and a boat tied up to it. It was like a little fishing boat. It told me, when I saw had the vision, it told me what the name of the boat was on the back. And I revealed this information to her. And I said, his hat said he was in Louisiana, somewhere like Baton Rouge or somewhere like that. That was his last known. It turns out that was his last known whereabouts was in Baton Rouge. He grew up there. He was a fisherman, and he had his own boat, and that was the name of the boat. And I described the boat, the color. It had a blue stripe it was a white boat with a blue stripe down it. She said, that's exactly his boat that you're describing. And the whole thing freaked me out so bad because I was so accurate. She actually started freaking me out. Like, it's almost like she knew what had happened to him, but she was fishing, no pun intended, for information on if anybody else could pick up on that. And it freaked me out so bad because I was so accurate that I shut down the chat and didn't pick up a deck or anything for a good 6 months after that. I was like, hell no. Because I assumed there was foul play. And the way she was acting, she knew there was foul play. It was just weird. But that is a card that freaked me out in this deck. This is one of my shadow work decks. And it's never wrong. It never steers me wrong. Then I did a reading. This is the Pensive Path Tarot. I did a reading. I love this deck. It's an indie deck. Did a reading for this. For the location I went to a wedding to last February. I'm just doing them all out of random order now. Because I don't know when is what. And I got a little girl. I'm going to pull out this oracle because I used them together to find out just information about a location I was going to. If it was haunted, what was going on with it. This is a Victorian oracle. It's on Make Playing Cards. It's stunning. Stunning also. I love it to pieces. I use it a lot for mediumship readings. But I kept seeing a little girl that turned into a grown woman, and she was not a nice person. When I did a spread, I pulled these cards, this card and this card. So this came from the Pensive Path, so it's a little girl. And then I saw a little redheaded girl in my vision. This is what I saw, was this little girl. And I'm like, what is happening? So when I got to the location, I started talking to the owner, and she was saying how her husband's always telling her there's a little girl in their basement. And I was like, yeah, I did feel there was a little girl spirit in the basement, but she's a grown woman when she passed. So I feel like she's still in that little girl mindset. And then I did a past life reading, and I asked if my husband was the same person in this past life, and that this card popped up with duality. It's the same person. It looks like, or twins. So that just flabbergasted me. That's from the Oracle as well. So those are little things like that just like, what is happening? Okay. So the next deck I'm going to show you, it's a traditional RWS right here. I do a lot of readings for my neighbors. Traditional RWS. You've seen it a million times, right? The neighbor asked me to do a reading for her, and I started doing a reading, and it was not nice. I felt like there was legal stuff involved. I felt like he was very young. It was a male that had passed, that he was very young, and there was an issue surrounding his death. And then she's like, yeah, it was my nephew. He died at 3 months old. We think his dad smothered him on purpose. We're still fighting it 10 years later in court. And I'm like, oh, wow. Then she said, does he have a message for his mom or anyone else in his family? And I pulled this card, the Page of Wands. And for the first time ever, I know the courts have like little lizards, salamanders, whatever, little fire dragons, I call them, in the wands. But all of a sudden, all I could see was the lizards on his shirt. It was like, or his tunic. It was almost like just that part of the image had blown up. And that's all I could see was these lizards everywhere. And I was feeling like they were coming off the page, jumping on me. And I'm like, I just keep seeing lizards, bearded dragons, just hundreds of them all over me. For some reason, they're like jumping on me, but not in a bad way. It was more of a kid-friendly way. Like, they were letting me know they were there. And she was like, what the F? She almost lost her mind. She said, hold on 1 second. I'll be right back. She leaves, comes back, and she shows me a picture of about 14-year-old little boy with a bearded dragon on his head. It's his bearded dragon. And I said, who is he? He said, he is the brother of the little boy you picked up. He's his big brother. And he has a bearded dragon. And he says every time he's got the bearded dragon in his hand, his brother's with him. And I almost started bawling. I was like, what is happening? Like, craziness. So, one more. This actually happened beforehand. This is the Bone, Sun, and Earth Flesh Tarot. I know you guys have seen this a million times. I did a reading for somebody on YouTube. This was after the one where I was freaked out. It was about 6 months later. I did another, like, you choose the deck and I'll do a reading for whoever comes through. Mediumship reading. I love this Wheel of Fortune. Anyway, I love this deck. I pulled this card. The Seven of Pentacles. And all of a sudden, I had a vision of a man. I had a name for him. And he was building model planes, trains, any kind of automobile. It was planes, trains, cars, boats, tons of them all over his house. And it was like a little log cabin. And I all of a sudden, this is one of the few times I smelled something also. All of a sudden I was smelling barbecue. And I was like, what is happening? And she starts telling me that her grandfather had passed and did model boats and model trains. But her father, who she was estranged from, the name I had gotten was his name. The cars and airplanes, he did model airplanes and model cars. And when she spent time with him she was younger, he would barbecue, grill steak for her every weekend every weekend that he was with her. And she said, I don't even know if he's passed yet or not, but it could have been either one of those men coming through, honestly. But it blew my mind because this was one of the first times that I was just like, what? Because I was seeing a vision and I was relaying it as it was happening. And she was like, yes, all of this has happened. All of this is true. My grandfather used to live in a log cabin. And there's boats, model boats and trains everywhere because he did boats and trains. And then her dad, his son, did trains and cars, or boats and cars. And I'm like, wow, that's insane. But you can pick up intuitively anything. I think we're all intuitive. We just block it for some reason. And then I just want to show y'all real quick a couple more decks. This is Journey of the Sacred Bee. I don't have any specific cards from this. I mean, I say that, and then that one. This is my Hierophant deck. This is a deck that every time I'm called to use it, I learn something about myself, about the world, about others. It's like my giant Hierophant encyclopedia deck because I'm always learning. Every time I'm called to use this, I'm about to learn a big lesson, and I love it for that. And that is why it's in this video. Real quick, I have two more that I want to show y'all. I'm going to show them together. The Uncommon Tarot and the Rosebud Tarot. If you've watched my channel recently, you know I've talked about these nonstop. I bought them both last year. They're both by Wiser Books. Wiser Books. This one is older. This one came out last year. Mass market. It was indie. They're collage decks. I think the reason why I love them so much is because, let me just pull them out together because I'm going to run out of time if I don't. Backs for that. It's smaller. Oh, that's pretty together. The Hermit and the Three of Water. Anyway, there's collage decks, so there's so much to go off of that your intuitive abilities just fire on all cylinders with these decks. I have never had a reading with these decks where somebody didn't know what I was talking about. Ever. Like, these two are fire. When I go to give somebody a mediumship reading, these are more than likely the two decks I'm going to pull out because they are never wrong. Ever. And I'm not saying I'm never wrong. I'm saying the decks are never wrong because the decks know. Look at this duality here and here. Look at that. I have paired them two together. I usually use these, a combination with this Oracle deck too, whenever I use these decks for mediumship readings. But these are the things that made me realize last year on a deeper level that this is not a joke. This is real stuff. And I was just floored. These two decks in the last year took my mediumship abilities to a whole new level. I was just floored. There is a card in this deck here. I don't know if I've already passed it. And they're just stunning. And I always have to put these in a video if I'm going to show them. Yeah. That went along with the other cards with the little girl, the town I went to, because that was a town that had been flooded out many, many years ago. And when I first talked about the town, I pulled this card and I'm like, what? It looks like that town. And I kept saying a specific year. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but it was like 1956 or something. They had a horrible flood in 93. I didn't live in the area at the time, but I had come up to visit my grandmother right after that had happened, and there were still horrible aftermaths going on. But this town had been almost wiped out at that point. But I kept hearing 1956 or 54 or 55, and I Googled it and got almost an image just like this for the same town. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I had newspaper footage backing up the card. That was insane. So yeah, these are all my cards or decks that made me believe there's more here than what we're just pulling cards to have fun. No, these are serious. And they can make or break you. They're serious cards, and if you don't want an answer, don't ask, because the tarot is going to give it to you. And I think also too, that is kind of like when you use a pendulum, like your intention is put into it. That's why I think I may not buy serious decks, but I'm serious about the messages I get. So it turns all of my decks into serious. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I'm just now starting to learn to loosen up and be playful. And then some of my decks I'm getting, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting them and they're playful, but maybe it's just the intention I'm putting into them is making them more playful. Where these all the ones I've showed you today are super serious for me. It's when I'm wanting an answer, I want a mediumship reading to go well. These are the decks I'm going to pull mainly. But yeah, that is the BR to what did I say? Moonlight. Oh my gosh, Moonflower Moments. It's called hashtag decks that made me believe, and these are all the ones I could think of right now. I could probably do a part 2 on this, but that's all I'm going to do for now. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate to comment below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification button so you're alerted to any future videos. And y'all have a good night. Bye.